Hello, welcome to another Real Raw Moment. Only the second of the year for me, which I'm surprised by because I'm usually Chatty Cathy, but I've had a few things going on. But today I had to come on and do this video because of someone I saw speak today who reminded me of this concept. And I'm going to talk about his work in this video a little bit and then do some subsequent videos on his work that I think are really going to help or illustrate or aid all of us PA people. So I had the privilege of seeing Dr. Gabor Mate speak today in a very intimate setting about his new book, The Myth of Normal, and it's about trauma. It's about how society expects us to act one way when really normal or what we are programmed to do is the opposite. And I got to thinking about how we have to act as PA persons. I'm going to say parents, in this case, grandparents, persons, foster people, aunts, uncles. Everybody. Targeted persons are all here. It's not just for parents. I really got to thinking about it because we so often have to suppress our emotions. Now, Dr. Mate's work is a lot around disease of the body, how stress affects our health, how we can make ourselves sick by not leaning into what we are naturally and as human beings programmed to do. For example, we give the example of grief. We're programmed to grieve. And I'm going to come back to that in a second because it's such an important topic here in PA. Well, what he reminded me of, and the message that I want to give, and what I've been working on therapy, and yes, come on, you guys knew I was going to talk about therapy, right? Right? Of course I was. Is about processing emotions, childhood trauma, intergenerational trauma, particularly childhood trauma. Because if we're not aware of it, we are going to carry it through to our own children, traumatize them in their own way, and on we go. Forget PA. We can just end up doing this as parents. I know it's crazy, right? We don't intend to hurt our children, and yet we can fall short, and there's no blame there. It's not about saying you could have been a better parent, you should have prevented this. It's a function that's his point, I believe, very broadly, is this myth of normal, that this is how it's supposed to go. One thing that came to mind is something that I talk a lot about for myself, within myself, people I coach, is not putting past emotions in present situations. And I was pondering that a little bit while he was talking, because he's talking about not living in the past event. And it's not about what happened to you. It's about what you do with it. And that was so beautiful because it's so powerful. It's not about the trauma that was inflicted on you. And again, let's just talk about alienation. Is it about that? Well, for the courts, yes, it is. And we can talk about this all day long about how the courts do not look holistically at the system and how we want to change that system. But how do we work within it to keep ourselves whole and sane and functioning human beings, parents to children that we may have that aren't alienated, daughters and sons to parents, aunts, uncles, grandparents, etc., etc. So when I talk about do not put past emotions in present situations, I'm not saying to suppress. It's to process and heal from. And that's a big ask when, and I'm going to come back to grief, because someone in the audience, there was a Q&A, and someone in the audience asked about today's society. Do we actually know how to grieve? And we don't. Not in today's modern society. Now, there's lots of societies. Dr. Mate gave examples of the Jewish communities in Shiva. I'll use the Polynesian community, Oaxaca. I don't want to butcher anybody's actual grieving traditions. Those are the two that come to mind right now. I'm going to stop there before I get myself in trouble. Something inappropriate or incorrect, which I don't want to do. But as North American, our society, our lack of tradition, a lack of connection to ancestry, we don't grieve. And when we do grieve, if we want to call it grief, we basically just use coping mechanisms to try and get through it, or to mask it, or to numb it out. I think we can all agree on that. Just look at today's society about how long, if you lose a loved one, how long do you take off of work? Lots of places, it's only 3 days bereavement leave. And it doesn't kind of graduate to the level of the person that you lost. I know I'm kind of going in circles here a little bit. Yes, you know me. We got to go with my train of thought and the little rodeo that it goes on, a little trail, and then I'll come back to something that actually makes sense for PA. There's so many exciting things in my mind that I want to share with you about this. But coming back to grief, what he talked about was the grief process. It's made for us to be able to embody and accept, and I'll say embody just to take it in, and in stages, let go of that person, that thing, that whatever, that's gone. And then we can start to heal because, that wound can start to close. And in PA, it's so much the opposite because we are constantly caught in this circle of grief. And we are caught in a mourning process that makes no sense and has no end and is not linear. Not that grief is ever linear. And I was thinking about that as he was talking because when he was talking, it was like resonating with me. I'm like, oh, I could just go back to grief right now. Like I want to jump up and say, hold the phone. Let's talk about grief for a second. Let's talk about this kind of grief. And it wasn't the forum for that. But what brought me back to again is not putting past emotions in present situations. So in the grief cycle of PA, I believe that there has to be a point where we stop reaching into the past to inform our current emotions. That's basically what I'm saying here. Reaching into the past and rehashing it constantly. So this kind of goes to, I think, anybody who knows me well enough or see my posts, watch my videos. I hate the bashing. I get so tired of rehashing something that happened 5 years ago. What about today? Because if you're going back and reaching for that as a crutch, as a reason for your anger, to justify your current anger, to justify your actions, past or present, that's not a healthy place to be. We have to, as PA people, still move forward, even going through that cycle of grief. And that means letting go of certain things. That means processing certain things. Processing anger, past anger, processing what happened and letting it go. Now, don't get me wrong. I am not here to say, forget it ever happened. That's not the case. That's not what I'm saying at all. The day I didn't get my children, the day I've got so many markers that I could trot out at any given time and say, yeah, this is the way I'm so screwed up. This is why I'm so sad. This is why I'm so angry. And that all would be true. Except I've now done work to leave them there as events. They happened to me. I cannot change it. Ergo, it's a marker in time for me. I process my emotions around it and I move forward. Not carrying the backpack of every single bad thing that the other parent has ever said or done to me, said about me, every horrible thing that my children have or have not said to me. This whole thing just really resonated with me, and I hope I'm making sense. Just so you guys know, I do these videos in one take. I do not go back and do them again. So this, unless it's entirely like gibberish, which generally it's not, I go with the stream of consciousness and I just try to bring things together and hope that it helps somebody and resonates with somebody to help them heal and move forward. Because here's the thing, in PA we can still heal, and I think that that's something that's not talked about, because in PA we're supposed to be broken, and we are. I mean, there's a part of us that's broken, there's a part of us that's grieving, there's a part of us that's hurting, there's a part of us that's in disbelief. I mean, it doesn't matter what stage you're in. We all kind of live in all of those stages in PA all day long, every day. And yet, those emotions could be from something that happened 3 years ago. And does that serve you to keep thinking about that thing 3 years ago as a painful, unresolved matter that going forward is just, I say just, not to minimize it, it's an event in your life that is now past, that you cannot change. And the more you take these past emotions, put them in the present situation, all you're doing is you're just taking that backpack with you and you're just pouring more and more stuff, gasoline on the fire for your current emotions. And like I said, to justify, to grieve, to be angry, to be sad, everyone has their own reason of doing it. What I think, and I'm going to say this. This is my theory as a PA person, and comments below. Would love to hear what everybody thinks. I think that PA, and I'll even speak for myself because I did this. So it's not just me preaching at you. I did this. I have hung on to all the wrongs, all the hurts, all the missed memories, all the missed moments, because I couldn't face becoming this person, this whole person that didn't have her children. I couldn't face the emotions that it would take for me to walk through that fire, walk over that bed of coals many, many times to become me. The me that had alienated children. The me now that has a very troubled daughter and a re-alienated son. It was easier for me to reach back and rehash and justify me not moving forward by what happened to me in the past. And it kept me there. Physically, mentally, emotionally. It hurt me. It hurt my heart. It hurt my health. It hurt my brain. It hurt my relationships with people. It caused no end of harm and self-inflicted in a way. So I encourage you to think about that. As PA parents, we live in a place of guilt, shame, remorse, wondering, anger, sadness, grief, very rarely acceptance. But acceptance is what I want you to lean into just a little bit. And acceptance means that it's not that nothing happened. It's not that all the emotions didn't happen. It's not that last week didn't happen. It's not that last year didn't happen. It's not all the things that you missed. All those things happened. And taking the emotion out of them and coming to accept they happened. Don't have to like it. Don't have to love it. Don't even have to give a rat's ass about it. Pardon my French. Looking at it and say, there's nothing I can do to change that now. That does not serve my purpose. It does not serve my energy level. And let me give you the caveat. I understand that going to court, of course, we have to rehash. We do have to live a little bit that way, but in a documentation way, in a legal way, not a whole heart self way. And as PA people, if we can start to process those emotions and leave those events back where they were events, acknowledge what they caused in us, acknowledge that I'm carrying that backpack forward from that event and then it affected this and this. It's all okay. There is no judgment to that. There's freedom in processing those emotions and then trying to live in the present day. And being present when you're a PA parent is somewhat a little bit of torture, simply because even in my present state, it's hard for me to not think of my alienated child and what is he doing today, or to think forward. He graduates this year. Where is he applying to university? I've really had to work at the skill of just taking things, one day at a time. I know, right? Minute by minute, but circumstance by circumstance. And to be able to recognize all the events that happened, they happened. They happened to me, they happened around me. They happened because of me. That's another one too, because of me in some cases. And I've made peace with that. I may not like what happened. I may not be proud of it, may be remorseful, ashamed, guilt, again, I can trot out all the emotions. That's okay for me to feel all those things about those things, and then I can put it away. Because I need to be emotionally present for myself, and for my existing child, and for my alienated son. I need to have boundaries, big word, boundaries around my reflections on the past. I need to be very cognizant and aware of when those thoughts creep in that I just say no. I've dealt with that. I'm at peace with that. and whatever peace means to you. I'm not saying you have to forgive anybody but yourself. I believe that self-forgiveness is a massive thing, very, very important tool, and that takes work. Therapy, support groups. I run one. We talk about it. So do not put past emotions into present situations. You as a PA person will be calmer, more rational, able to handle your emotions better if and when you can take the step back to be the observer of the past, do some work around it, accept that those things happened. If you're angry about them and you haven't been angry before and you're suppressing that, get angry, process that anger, get whatever emotions you need out. I'm not saying that Dr. Mate, if he was ever to watch this, would go like, now Lee better not be talking about suppression. I am not talking about suppression. I am talking about healthy processing and marking events and not embodying them every time you think of them. Now, this doesn't happen overnight. It takes work, not gonna lie. As I always say, I know that's not the words you want to hear in PA because we all just want things to, go back to normal. And of course, if we're in court, that's enough work. Life is enough work. I get it. As a person who has had the privilege and has endeavored and worked very hard, particularly in the last year, to do what I am talking about now, I cannot stress enough how important it is to put yourself first. And that's what it's doing. It's putting yourself first. It's putting your emotions first. It's allowing yourself to grieve. It's allowing yourself to heal. It's allowing yourself to acknowledge. And there's such power in that. Because in PA, we don't have a lot of power, right? Like we could say we're victims. It's not my favorite word of mine. Targeted parents, people in the midst of it. I don't like the word victim. However, we are on the butt end of it often, right? And the more that we do that work to not carry these past emotions into present situations, the more present you can be for the current situation, whether that be court, whether that be maybe you're starting to interact with your child, maybe you're on the cusp of alienation, but you still have an opportunity to connect with your child or children. Leaving that stuff behind, dealing with it though, you're not suppressing, dealing with it, and then coming to a place of being present with whatever present emotions you need to have in order to not only survive but thrive. And yes, you can thrive in any situation, even in PA. So I'll leave it there for now, as I've talked enough. Comments below, let me know your thoughts. Let me know if this made sense. And I look forward to your thoughts. This is something I feel very passionately about, and when I'm coaching, it's something I do coach on. Yes, I do work in court documents and emails and things that have to link to past events. When I'm coaching somebody one-on-one though, or even in a group and support group, I do encourage this exact approach of kind of like catch and release and process the past, feel what you need to feel, allow yourself to feel that whenever you do, and then put it to bed because it is the past and you need to be present. Comments below.